I just flipped the switch. So we should be live in a few moments. All right, there we are. Oh, you have a little error right there. All right. All right, good afternoon, everyone. Good evening. Pretty much at this point, it's already 4:41. We want to thank you so much for coming to join us here on the Atlanta News First Alert Desk. I'm Tori Cooper. We're just here to provide you a few updates on some of the stories that we're working on, some of the top stories that we're really trying to develop further to try to bring you some more information on what's happening around you. So today, we did have a bit of a gloomy day, but that did not stop people from taking to the water in Troup County. So this is definitely one of our top stories tonight. We're learning that a man in his 80s, there are some mixed reports about his age. Let me just update this. A man in his 80s, unfortunately, fell off of a boat with family members. They say that family members, and including his wife, pulled him back after he fell in. They tried to perform CPR, and unfortunately, they tell us that he died on scene. Tragic situation, horrible for this family that tried to enjoy a nice day out on the water, and then it ends like this. And an excellent reminder for everybody watching right now, it's getting warmer. If you're planning on going out, no matter what, wear a life preserve. Wear a life jacket that is working, that has no issues, that is not old. I've done so many stories like this when it's too late to talk about that piece to it. And it's devastating when this happens to families that are just trying to have a good time out there. So we did, in the last few minutes, actually, we did get the name of the victim. His name is Henry Wilkes, and he's from Carroll County. And now we're working to try to track down some of his family members that will hopefully be willing to talk with us today and tonight about what happened and just how they're moving after this, after a tragic loss. So we're working on that information. We actually have one of our photographers heading down to Troup County right now to bring some more video and hopefully get in contact with the family. So that's what we're working on right now. That's one of our top stories. Another story that I just want to touch on is Fani Willis. She was back in court yesterday for the continuation of the disqualification hearing that we have been all following. This has been a nationwide story, has garnered a lot of attention. That's going to potentially remove her from the helm of the most historic case that we have seen, which is the election subversion case against Donald Trump and the 18 other co-defendants. So yesterday, attorneys on both sides wrapped up their arguments. Let's take you back into the courtroom really quick. Let's play this out for you. Bear with me here. So you can see she was there in court when both attorneys were, her attorney as well as the attorneys representing Michael Roman and some Donald Trump and the other people on the other side brought up their arguments. So this took about 3 hours whole day. That's a very long court hearing, but defense attorneys for former President Donald Trump and his co-defendants argued the appearance of a conflict of interest is enough to remove District Attorney Fani Willis from the case. That was essentially their argument, and they made another point that to really draw attention to the thousands of texts and calls between both Fani Willis and Special Prosecutor Nathan Wade in a span of less than a year. And they also alleged that she financially benefited. As you know, that's been their main argument from her relationship when she said that, it was always essentially small cash to her that she would share in terms of repaying him for any of the money that that he may have spent on her. And then, Willis's attorneys argued there is no evidence of financial benefit in this relationship. Miss Willis also took the stand about 2 weeks ago now, and she essentially made that same point to the defense. And they were also arguing several of the defense's questions to Willis were only meant to embarrass her. That's what her attorneys were also saying, and that this was to just get her off of the election subversion case. And so we want to let you hear from both of the attorneys and some of their final statements in the courtroom yesterday.
It's desperate. It's a desperate attempt. It's ridiculous. It's absurd, and it's desperate. It's a desperate attempt to remove a prosecutor from a case for absolutely no reason, Your Honor. other than harassment.
If this court allows this kind of behavior to go on and allows DAs across the state by its order to engage in these kinds of activities, the entire public confidence in the system will be shot.
It's ridiculous. It's absurd.
So again, you just heard from both the defense and as well as Ms. Fani Willis's attorneys who were in the courtroom sharing their arguments. So now the judge essentially walked away saying he needs 2 weeks to look back at all of this, and then he will make a decision. So this is going to be a long 2 weeks because we've all been waiting and watching to see what the decision is going to be in terms of who is taken off this case or not at all. So we're going to be following this very closely, gavel to gavel. We will be in the courtroom, and we will be bringing you these quick updates on the takeaway from court. And at this point, it's really just the decision. So keep an eye on our coverage for more details on how this all wraps up. All right, so last information, and I just want to wrap up our first alert weather days from this week. We had a lot of severe storms moving in on different days, not only Wednesday, but we also had them on some of Thursday and also a little bit last night. So I just want to show you a tree that went down because it did hit a car and it took down some power lines and it did block off Seminole Avenue in northeast Atlanta. So let's take you to that scene really quick. You can see there was a number of power crews from Georgia Power working to restore power to this area. This tree was massive. We usually see this in residential areas. As you know, this is nothing new for people who live in Georgia because you guys all know that when it gets rainy like that and it's for long periods of time, we have those old trees getting uprooted and causing damage in our residential areas. So this is something that, made this community have to deal with a pretty hefty cleanup process, but it looks like crews worked throughout the day and throughout the night to try to get the power back up. So if you guys live in that area, you can always let us know if anything happens next that we have not shared with you guys, but hopefully you guys hopefully this is all cleaned up by now. So thank you so much for joining me here. I like to keep it short. I like to keep it simple and direct and top stories that we're really seeing. So of course the tree isn't a top story, but it's just some visuals that we know that was happening in and around community members that we just like to make sure that you guys know about, because that did take out someone's car, and it just brings up those other pieces of information that make sure you have your insurance, make sure you have some money set aside for tree removal, things like that. Especially right now, we're starting to see more rain moving through our areas as the spring continues to bring us more moisture and stuff like that. So we're going to have our first alert meteorologist, Cutter Martin, breaking down some chances of rain that they are talking about on Tuesday. I believe they do have a first alert in store for that. And whenever there's a first alert, it's essentially because weather's going to change, either temperature drops, severe weather, storms, you name it. You'll get a first alert about it in our First Alert weather app. If you don't have that, make sure that you do, because it's great. It'll let you know about weather around you. And then lastly, just continue to keep us updated. Send us your pictures to 470-777-WANF, because if you see something, we want to share it with our viewers. We want to share it with people around you, because if you see something, say something, right? So, make sure you check back in with us tonight at 6 o'clock. We have an early evening newscast on WANF, then we will be on Peachtree TV at 10, and then we will be back on WANF at 11 o'clock tonight with myself and Miss Carly Barnett. And Miss Carly Barnett will also be here back on the First Alert desk at 8 o'clock. All right, thank you so much for joining me, and have a good rest of your weekend. I've muted my mic, so we're good. I'm about to flip this. Is it better to flip the switch first, then take it out of Magellan? Flip the switch first? Okay. Okay, did that. All right. And then you just hit stream, right?